I found out by chance that my wife paid my father to keep quiet about her past, but he died without telling me the truth. I'm 38. I live in Pittsburgh. I work as a manager for a logistics company. My wife, Emma, is 36. We've been together for 10 years, married for 8. We have a daughter, Lila, who is 5. Life is stable. Not perfect, but real. We laugh, we fight, we travel, we cook together, we watch movies under the covers when it rains. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew my father. My father, Robert. He died 2 years ago of a heart attack. He was 67. We weren't very close. He was strict, silent, and spent more time in the garage than at home. But he always respected Emma. Even when she did something he didn't like, he kept quiet. And I always thought, he respects her. He accepts her. And then I found the envelope. It happened when I was taking apart his old desk. The thing he never let anyone touch. Mom said, he has to leave everything as it is. But 2 years had passed. I decided time. In the secret compartment at the bottom was an envelope. No name. Just the date. March 15th, 2014. A month after our wedding. Inside was money. $5,000. And a letter. Handwritten. Emma's handwriting. Robert. Thank you for agreeing to remain silent. I know you learned about my past. That you found the old archives. That you could have ruined everything. But you didn't. And that's what I'm paying you for. Not as a bribe, but as a thank you. For not telling Alex. That you didn't ruin his happiness. You're his father. And he deserves to think I'm clean. Even though I'm not. Please keep it. And don't tell anyone. Especially him. Sincerely, Emma. I sat on the floor, holding the letter, and couldn't figure out whether it was a lie, whether it was true, whether my wife had bought my father's silence so that I wouldn't find out about her past. I didn't know she had a past. She spoke openly about herself. A single mother, worked as a waitress, studied at night to become an accountant. Nothing wrong, nothing worth hiding. But he found something, and she paid him to keep quiet. And he died without ever telling me. I couldn't call her. I couldn't look her in the eye. I just sat there wondering, do I love her? Do I love who she was? Or who she is? And I didn't know the answer. I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't know who I loved. The woman I've known for 10 years? Or the one my father kept quiet about? I called my mother. Mom, I found a letter. From Emma. To my father. About her paying him to keep quiet about her past. Silence. I know, she said. What? Do you know? Yes, she said. Your father told me. Not right away, but a month after the wedding. He said, I found out something about Emma, and she offered me money to keep quiet. And you didn't say anything? No, she said. Not because you agreed with her, and because he said, if Alex finds out, he'll leave her. And she loves him, and he loves her. Should we destroy this for the sake of the truth? But I have a right to know. Yes, she said. But he decided it was better to keep quiet. Not because he sold out, but because he loved you, and he didn't want you to suffer. But what did she do? He found an old case, said Mom. She was accused of arson when she was young. Not evil. But she was in a group of teenagers who burned down an old woman's house. No one was hurt, but the police identified the participants. She was given a suspended sentence. The case was closed, but the archives remained. And he found it. Yes, through the database. He worked in insurance. He had access. And when she came to us after the wedding, he asked, why did you do it? She said, I was stupid. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. But I couldn't admit it to Alex. And did she offer him money? Yes, Mom said. Not so he wouldn't keep quiet forever, but so he wouldn't tell you right away. So she could decide when to tell you. But he took it. Not for himself. He gave the money to charity. But he kept quiet. Until the end. I sat there wondering, was this a lie? Was this a defense? Was my wife a criminal? Or was she just a girl who made a mistake at 16? He never told me, I said. Not even when I asked, do you respect her? He nodded. Yes, said my mother. He respected me. Not because she paid, but because she came to him, confessed, and asked for a chance. And he gave her one, by silence. But now I know, I said. And I don't know what to do. Then ask her, said my mother. Don't blame her. Don't be afraid. Just say I know. And I want to know the truth from you. I hung up the phone and sat there for a long time. An hour later, Emma came home from kindergarten with Lila. She was smiling. She was telling me how Lila had drawn the sun with her face on it. "Dad, look," said my daughter. I hugged her. I looked at Emma, and I said, "I found the letter. From you. To your father. About money. About silence." Her smile disappeared. Her eyes were full of pain. "I wanted to tell you," she said, "but I couldn't find the time. I couldn't find the words. And I was afraid you would leave me." "Did you burn the house down?" "Yes," she said, "but not alone. We were a group. I didn't want to, but I was there, and I didn't stop, and I got paroled, and I've lived with it ever since." "And did you pay my father?" "Yes," she said, "not so he'd be silent forever, and so he wouldn't tell you right away, so I could find the moment. But the moment never came, and now he's dead, and I lost the chance to tell you first. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I could forgive, if I could love her with this past. But I knew one thing. She wasn't lying to me. She was just afraid of losing me. I couldn't leave it like that. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I wanted to know everything. I started looking. Not her things. Not her phone. But in the archives. Old newspapers. Criminal databases. Her case was closed, but not expunged. Through the city library, I found a clipping from the Pittsburgh Gazette, 2003. Teen convicted of arson on Garden Street. Emma Taylor, 16, pleaded guilty to setting fire to the apartment building where 78-year-old Margaret Hill lives. Police say the arson was part of a rally that got out of hand. No one was hurt. The girl was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service. Photo. Young Emma. Eyes full of tears. Not anger, but guilt. But something didn't add up. I called the police station. I explained that I was looking for information about an old case. Not for the court. For myself. "The case is closed," the officer said. "But there is a note." One of the suspects, the defendant's younger sister, testified that she was the one who started the fire. But Emma Taylor interrupted the interrogation and said, "I did it. Don't touch her." And they believed it. She confirmed it in court. She said she acted on her own, that her sister didn't know anything. And we had no evidence against the younger one. Who was her sister? Lisa. She was 13 at the time. I hung up the phone. I couldn't breathe. She took the blame. Not because she was guilty, but because she didn't want her little sister to ruin her life at 13. She went to court. She had a criminal record. She lived with it. And she never blamed anyone. I got home. Emma was cooking dinner. Leela was drawing. "Did you find anything else?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I found the newspaper. And I found out about Lisa." She fell silent. She wasn't scared. She just nodded. She was so little, she said. It was her first day in new school. She was being teased. She was in shock. And she said, "I'm going to destroy everything that belongs to them." She didn't think anyone would get hurt. She just wanted to destroy the park. But the wind blew the flames away. "And you said it was you." "Yes," she said. "Not because I wanted to be a heroine, but because I was older, and I couldn't watch them ruin her life. I was already at university. I had a future, and she hadn't even started living yet. But you ruined mine." "No," she said. "I just took a different path. I worked twice as hard to get my degree, to find a job, to prove that I wasn't the girl in the newspaper. And when I met you, I was already different. But I couldn't tell. Not because I was afraid you would leave me, but because I was afraid you would look at me like a criminal. And I was just protecting my sister." I sat there wondering, is this a crime? Is this love? Is this the greatest sacrifice a sister can make? "Have you ever told Lisa that you took the blame?" "Yes," she said. "When she turned 18. She cried. She said, 'I don't deserve this.' But I said, 'You deserve a chance. And I deserve to live.' I stood up. I went over to her. I didn't hug her right away. I just said, 'Why didn't you ever tell me?' 'Because I loved you,' she said. 'And I didn't want your love to be out of regret. I wanted you to love me, not in spite of the past, but with it. But I couldn't find the moment. And now you know,' she said. 'And I'm waiting, not for forgiveness, but to see if you still want to be with me.' I hugged her, very tightly, and in that moment I realized she wasn't hiding to betray. She was silent to protect, not just her sister, but us too, our lives, our daughter. I couldn't go on living with this in words. I wanted to know if what she had done was really a sacrifice or a self-deception. Emma gave me Lisa's number. Not right away. After a long silence, after I said, "I want to know the whole story, not just from your words, but from hers." She nodded and said, "She lives in Kentucky. She works as a veterinarian, and she's never forgiven herself for what happened." I called. Not accusingly. Not as a man looking for validation, but as someone who wants to understand who she is, my wife. Lisa answered after 3 rings. This is Alex, I said. Emma's husband. Silence. I know who you are, she said. She's telling me about you. That you're good. That you love her. I want to know the truth about what happened. You already know, she said. But you don't know how deep it went. We had arranged to meet. Not in her town. Not in mine. In a neutral place. A cafe on the shores of Lake Erie. Sunny. Quiet. The air smelled of water. She had arrived first. Young, like Emma. The same eyes. The same shape of her eyebrows. But there was a weight in her gaze. Thank you for coming, she said. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't want you to think she was lying, she said. Because she made the greatest sacrifice of my life. Tell me. I was 13, she said. First day, and new school. They teased me. Not just with words. They burned my notebooks. They wrote on the school board, "Death to Lisa." And one night I said, I'm going to destroy everything that belongs to them. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. I just wanted to burn down the park. But the wind carried the flames. The house caught fire. And you left. Yes, she said. But Emma saw me. She saw me running. And she understood. And the next day, when the police came, she said, I did it. Why didn't she tell the truth? Because I was in shock, Lisa said. And when they questioned me, I denied it. And she saw that I would break down. That I wouldn't stand trial. That my life would end. And she said, I'm guilty. Don't touch her. And took it all upon herself. And you? I hated myself, she said. I cried for years. I wrote her letters. I'm sorry. It's my fault. But she answered, you lived. And that's more important. And she never blamed you? No, said Lisa. On the contrary, when I wanted to turn myself into the police, she said, if you do this, I'll lose you. And that will be worse than what I've already lost. And I remained silent. Not because I was afraid, but because she asked me to. And did you forgive her? How can you forgive the one who saved you? She said. She ruined her life so I could have a future. She was expelled from university. Employers refused. People said, she's the girl who burned down the house. And I learned. I got married. I have 2 children. And every time I look at them, I think, it's because of her. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the water. And I realized, this is not a story about a crime. This is a story about a victim. About how one woman took the blame so that another could live. Why didn't she ever tell me? Because she was afraid you would look at her differently, Lisa said. What would you say? You ruined your life. And now you want me to carry it. But I know, if you had known, you would have stayed. Because you're like her. You protect the ones you love. I came home. Emma was sitting on the porch with Lila. Did you meet Lisa? She asked. Yes, I said. And I know everything now. And what do you feel? Pain, I said. Not for you, but for you. For going through this alone. For not being honored as a hero. For being afraid I would abandon you if I found out. And now I know who you are, I said. And I don't want you to ever be afraid of me. I hugged her. And in that moment, I realized, she's not just my wife. She's a woman who gave herself so that someone else could live. And I had to be the one standing by, even when the past comes back. Several days passed. She didn't ask what I had decided. She didn't try to make excuses. She just lived. She cooked, walked with Lila, laughed when her daughter told her about strange dreams. But I saw, she was waiting, not for forgiveness, but for a sentence. And then one evening, when Lila was already asleep, I said, I want you to tell me everything. Not what I already know, but what you never said. How you felt, what you lost, how you lived with it. She sat for a long time. Then she said, when I was expelled from university, I lost myself for the first time in my life. I was not Emma, the future accountant. I was the one who set the house on fire. Employers refused, even when I passed the interview. One said, we can't trust a person who set fire to a house. And I didn't even ask, what if she wasn't guilty? And you? I wasn't guilty, she said. But I was responsible. I was older. And I decided, it's better for me to be guilty than for her to ruin my life. And I paid for it every day. Every time someone looked at me with suspicion. When Lila cried and said, I don't deserve what you did. When I couldn't tell the boy, I love you. Because I was afraid he would find out and leave. And when did you meet me? I loved you from day one, she said. But I was afraid that if you found out, you'd only see me as that girl in the newspaper, that your love would turn into regret or fear, and I didn't want to lose you. And now you know, she said. And I don't know if I could look you in the eye if you said, asterisk, I can't live with this. Asterisk. She cried, not quietly, not out of guilt, but out of relief, like someone who had carried everything inside for 15 years and finally let out. I walked up to her. I didn't say, I forgive you. I didn't say, it doesn't matter. I just hugged her, and I said, you're not a criminal. You're a sister who saved a child, a woman who went through hell so that another could have light, and a wife who was afraid of losing me, not because she lied, but because she loved. But you still want to be with me? Yes, I said, not in spite of what happened, and with it, because love is not about perfection. It's about accepting someone's story in its entirety, even if it hurts, even if it's embarrassing, even if it changes the way you look at the person. She hugged me, and in that moment I realized, this is not the end. This is the beginning of being together, not as a perfect couple, but as two people who decided, we'll get through this together. A month later, I found an old newspaper clipping, not to hide, but to keep. I put in a frame. Signed, Emma Taylor, not a criminal, a hero no one honored. My wife. I hung in my office. When Lila asked, who is this? I said, this is your mother. And she made the hardest choice of her life so that someone else could live. And now I live with that. Not with lies, not with pain, but with the truth. Complicated, painful, but true. And every time she says, I love you, I answer, I know, and I love you, with everything you've been through.